Hi, so this is the customer lifetime value prediction project, where the goal of the project is to basically predict the lifetime value of like a customer based on their purchase history. And the focus of this project is to basically create like aggregation features, such as like total spend, apply recency, frequency, and monetary analysis, and use time-based features. So we got this data set from Kaggle from the customer sentiment dataset, where you can go down and download the CVS file over here. So yeah, let's get back to the project. So I basically began this project by basically importing all the things I would need throughout the entire project. So it's from like importing pandas to PD, importing numpys and p, all the way down to like when we do machine learning, we importing like sklearn, k libraries with their models and their metrics for evaluation of the dataset. So I first began by assigning df to pd.read CVS file, and then I printed out some basic information about this dataset, such as its shape by using df.shape, the number of columns, so df columns to list, the data types, and like the printed the first 5 rows. So here's our output for this dataset. So dataset shape is the 541,000 rows and 8 columns. The columns are like invoice number all the way down to country. The data types range from objects in 64s to float 64s. Here are the first few rows. So here's our first few rows with the columns invoice number all the way down to country. Then we move on to like printing some statistical summary about this data set by using df.describe. So this gives us the count, mean, standard deviation, minimum 25 percentile, 50 percentile, and 5 percentile, and max for quantity, unit price, and customer ID. Next, I move on to data processing. So I begin by identifying columns with like any missing values with like df is null.sum. Then I did df is equal to df.drop na subset customer ID. Basically, this removes like the rows where the customer ID is missing, as like the customer ID is like a key identifier for like customers. Then I moved on to df.invoice date is equal to pd.toDateTime df.invoice. Basically, this line of code basically converts the invoice data column from like a string format to like a datetime object. And this allows us to basically do operations such as calculating recency and grouping like the month and year, and basically filtering out the data by the date range. Then we move on to df.dollar_spend is equal to df.quantity times df.unit price. Basically, this line of code basically calculates the total monetary value of like each transaction by basically multiplying the quantity by the unit price. Then we move on to df is equal to df brackets df brackets quantity is greater than 0. Basically, this line of code basically removes like rows where the quantity is like negative, as like negative quantity distorts like metrics like total spend and like frequency. Then we move on to basically printing out the process dataset shape with df.shape, and then we print out the range by using df.invoice data.mean to all the way to df.invoice.max and printing out the first 5 rows. So here we have all the missing values. So right now the columns that have the most missing values are like customer ID and description. Here's our data set shape, which is 397,000 rows to 9 columns. The date ranges from December 1st, 2010 all the way till December 9th, 2011. Here's the first 5 rows from like invoice number all the way down to total spend.